Hi everyone. Today's video I'm going to talk about the differences between the 4 personality disorders in the cluster B of personality disorders. There's 10. I'm going to talk about 4 today. I'm going to talk about narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, which is now called emotionally unstable, and I'm going to talk about histrionic personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder. This is not meant to be any kind of clinical diagnostic explanation. I'm merely a certified professional coach giving my opinion based on some formal education, a lifetime of informal education, and helping clients for over 8 years with people that have personality disorders and people that are in relationships with them. I think this is important for you guys. The reason I made this is because I know that you guys want to make sense out of your experience. It's a part of our healing journey. It's real hard to move on from such a huge traumatic experience that we may not understand. It might be impossible until we have some understanding of it, until we can make sense of it a little bit, at least. That's why I made this. So first I want to start with the cluster B is considered wild, emotional, risky behaviors. Either they put other people at risk and even themselves. There's lots of overlap in these disorders, and that's something that a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people want to diagnose someone that they know, and you just can't do that. You can't. You can't self-diagnose. You can't diagnose people you know. If you're not a doctor, you shouldn't be diagnosing anybody. But these 10 disorders have so much overlap, and each one has a very distinct criteria. You have to have 5, or you have to have all 3, or you have to have 6. And if you have 4 or 5 or 3, then you don't have the disorder. And it's a spectrum you could say maybe we are all on. And when negative problems in your life causes negative effects in your life, it becomes a disorder, which means it's pervasive. It's in all areas of your life, and it's a pattern of these behaviors, okay? I just want to be clear on that. When someone is diagnosed with borderline, then they might also have traits of histrionic, of narcissistic, of antisocial, of schizotypal, paranoia, all these things, okay? They could have traits of all 10 and only have one disorder. I just want to be clear on that. It seems like a lot of people have troubles understanding that. So, first, borderline and histrionic. I'm going to talk about those two real quick. There are twice as many histrionics in treatment centers. So at least people that get help that are recorded, there's way more histrionic than borderline. There are way more women that are borderline or emotionally unstable and histrionic. It's more inclined to be females, at least they get more help. When you talk about narcissistic, NPD, and ASPD, it's mostly men. Borderlines and histrionics are very entitled people. They believe they're entitled to everything they want, everything that you have, and service to them, maybe for life. You can take care of them. You can take care of their family. They don't have to work. You could provide a great home. You could make sure that everything's done for them. You could cook for them, clean for them, buy their clothes. You could take them out every day, pay for everything, pay for their school, pay for their hospital bills. And if I've left anything else out, then add that too. And they don't care. They aren't thankful. They aren't grateful. They move on to someone else that will provide those things for them the next day. Massive entitlement. And I have to be very careful when I talk about this particular disorder, borderline. I'm not talking about all. I'm not talking about you. If you're borderline, you're watching this, not you. Just all the other ones, not you. Very clear. Not all. This is a spectrum. Not all borderlines do everything I'm saying borderlines do. Not all histrionics do everything histrionics do. Not all narcissists do everything I say NPD does, and social and antisocial. Same thing. Okay? So I don't need anyone to chime in and say, I'm borderline, I don't do any of those things. I've literally read the diagnostic criteria for borderline, and I've had borderlines tell me I don't do any of those things, which is just absolutely impossible. The funniest thing is the biggest biggest trait is lack of self-awareness in all of them. All of them. It's not me, it's you. I don't have that, you have it. You're a narcissist. You're borderline. So it just looks funny when someone chimes down below and says, I'm borderline, I don't do any of those things. It's like, sure. Okay. I don't know what the point of it is. To reassure yourself, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, they are entitled. And all of them, all four are entitled. They have a wide range of emotion for you and for them. I'll get to that later. I'll explain what I mean by that. The biggest differences between these two, one of them, and like I said, I'm not going to go through all the differences, and I'm not going through diagnostic criteria, which there are many differences. So be aware of that. Biggest difference between these two disorders, borderline and histrionic, is center of attention. Now, I know borderlines want to be attention. They want attention quite often. They act like little petulant children sometimes, and they will have temper tantrums until they get their way, and they get extremely jealous and insecure that you might like someone else but me, but they do not want center of attention all the time. There's borderlines that never want to be a center of attention, and all borderlines don't want to be center of attention all the time, but histrionics do. They want to be the center of attention all the time, no matter what. Even when they're sleeping, even when they're dead. They want to be the center of attention at somebody else's funeral, at somebody else's wedding, at church. They want to be the center of attention at somebody else's birthday, at somebody else's reunion, not even their own family reunion. They want to be the center of attention all the time. They will dress it, they will look it, they will talk it, speak it, behave it, everything they can do to constantly be the center of attention. And if somebody else comes along and gets some of that attention from them, they freak out. Not borderline. I know a lot of you guys say that they're the same. No, they're not. Very distinct difference. Okay? Center of attention. That is literally the biggest difference in those two. And all of these like attention. Don't get me wrong. All of these people can be massive extroverts. They gain their power from other people, aren't they? Emotional vampires. So narcissists, borderlines, and histrionics all have a high tendency to take their own lives. They have a high tendency to be very obsessed, whether that's obsessed on someone that they want to know, want to date, want to be with, and it could be someone very unattainable. It could be their own doctor, their boss, their priest, their anybody. And they could obsess on them like a teenager, but they have a tendency to obsess after the relationship is over. They cannot accept it's over. They cannot grieve. They cannot look at themselves, and they can't accept it. And they very, very often obsess on the target, even if you don't know. They may be stalking you and you don't know. They constantly will come back and hoover because maybe it's never over with them. Maybe they never end relationships. The biggest sign of a toxic relationship is that they break up and get back together all the time. You don't want to do that. If you've done that, it's toxic. And revenge. False accusations. I'm going to get into the revenge here in a minute. I'm almost done. Not a long video today. They seek revenge. And the revenge is usually false accusations. A lack of acceptance. So, now we get into the differences of NPD and ASPD. Narcissistic personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder. Emotions. Emotions are only for them. A psychopath does not have a wide range of emotion at all. It could be total crisis and they'll sit there calmly. Now, don't get me wrong, they could lose it and have fits of rage too. It'd be extremely dangerous. But their emotions are for them, not for you. They don't get excited with you. They don't sympathize. They aren't there for you during the hard times and be there during the good times and celebrate with you and cry with you and get happy for you and get down and compassion and none of this stuff. None. They get excited for themselves only. They have interest for themselves, for what they want, what they need, what they like, what feels good to them, not you. The difference between a narcissist and a sociopath and psychopath is the narcissist acts morally pure. The narcissist is more delusional. The narcissist is unstable, suicidal, delusional, rewrites narrative, fantasies of grandeur. Not a very good perception. And they will act morally pure. And then they want to attack everyone else for not being morally pure. And that's how they up themselves to be better than average, to be better than other people, to overcompensate for their insecurities and shame. Is I am so honest. I am omnipotent, godlike. I'm honest. I have integrity. I demand respect. I'm the most loyal person ever. And you aren't. You are honest. You are dishonest. You don't keep your word. You're disrespectful. Not me. I'm so respectful. You're disrespectful. You lie all the time. I never lie. You make so many mistakes and fail all the time. I never do. That's the narcissist. Because the sociopath and psychopath could care less. They're not morally pure and they don't really care to sell that. Now, don't get me wrong. They're extremely exploitative, so if it requires to act like they're a little morally pure, sure, but they're not trying to get over on you and say, I'm better than you because I'm more morally pure. You'll very much see this in narcissist women, females. Biggest difference right there. Biggest. Morally pure. The antisocial is parasitic. They don't get obsessed and hoover. They don't care about you, literally. For all these people out there, all you guys say, oh, my abuser didn't care, my borderline just never cared about me, never loved me. Yeah, they did care. They did care and they still do care. That's why they're going to contact you tomorrow. Don't wait for the sociopath to do that. It's not going to happen. The psychopath, not at all. Done with you, they're done with you. You're not even a thought in their brain. Nothing. They don't care. They're not obsessed with you. They don't get jealous. They aren't trying to get you back. They don't need you. They don't rely on you and depend on you. They are only 100% exploitative. Period. Exploitation. To use someone for their own purpose, their own good, their own enjoyment. That's the sociopath. That's the psychopath. Matter of fact, they will not engage with you. They will not interact with you. And they definitely won't have you in their life unless they are exploiting you. Period. Every instance, every day, every second. If they smile at you, it's to exploit you. Period. The borderline and histrionic, they're not like that. They're not that bad. They will contribute some. They will try and fail. They want to work and help. They'll clean. They'll do nice things for you sometimes. They'll be loving, thoughtful, caring, right? And not want something in return. They can actually enjoy that, to do that for people. Sociopath, psychopath makes them sick to think about it. If they're going to do something like that, the reward better be huge. Revenge. Now, I talked about revenge with the histrionic and the borderline and the narcissist, but they're somewhat delusional. They're emotionally fragile. It doesn't take much to hurt their feelings. It doesn't take much for them to believe that they're skewed. You did something to them. You misaligned. Did something wrong. You did something wrong to me. You're bad. And they split to protect themselves. Oh God, you're a horrible person. They go tell everyone that you cheated and beat them. They project and, oh, you're a horrible person. They try to get you fired and all that. Sociopaths, psychopaths don't really do that. I'm not saying none of them ever do. But if they seek revenge, it's real. You really screwed them over. You did something wrong to them. You weren't nice to them. You were mean to them, or something worse. And be careful and watch out. The borderline's about obsession, like a stupid little child running around. Someone else give me some attention, right? And then someone else gets their attention and they get more focused on them and whatever they're doing. And then they think about you later and they might contact you just for whatever dumb reason. But no, sociopaths, psychopaths, no. Very calculated in what they do. Grandiosity is a psychopathic trait. We attribute it to narcissism, but it's actually a psychopathic trait. Antisocial. Overlap. Remember, narcissists can be grandiose, histrionics can be grandiose, borderlines can be grandiose. You will not see the same level of borderline and histrionic to a sociopath and psychopath. You will not see that same level. Unless they have both, by the way. Very common to be comorbid and have two personality disorders. No reason to sit there and say they must only have one. They could have two. If they meet the criteria, they have it. It's that simple. You don't say, oh, they meet the criteria for this one, and it looks like they meet the criteria for this one, but since they have this one, they can't have this one. No, then they have both. Simple. You could go to two different doctors to find that out. So the revenge is real. And they may never stop until you're destroyed. And I think the scariest thing about a sociopath and psychopath, they lack self-preservation. They'll take you down and be more than happy to go down with you. Don't care. They'll drive in a car and go 90 miles an hour and hit turns just to scare you. But they aren't wearing a seatbelt. They don't care if they kill themselves. Total lack of self-preservation. You won't find that too much unless they're in a psychotic rage or something with a borderline, histrionic. Controlling is a psychopathic trait. Being grandiose, controlling, and parasitic are all psychopathic. Overlap, you'll see it in borderline, won't you? You'll take care of a borderline and they'll, it's not enough. Within a week, they're going through your stuff and using your things and calling your friends and just totally living on everything about you. They want everything that you have. They want to, if they don't like something you have, they get rid of that. They add more things to your life, completely parasitic. It's just not the same. It's more of a lack of self-reliance and a lack of self-awareness, whereas the psychopath is Machiavellianistic. They're scheming and plotting and planning this on purpose. And they won't have anything to do with you if it won't work. Then there's no need to talk to you. Crime. If there's one thing that makes a sociopath, that separates them from the rest of us, it's crime. Criminal behavior. At least 60% in prisons are sociopaths. A lot of them are psychopaths, but that doesn't leave much room for everybody else, right? And extreme exploitative. Exploitative, all of them are exploitative, but the antisocial will not, again, have anything to do with you unless they can exploit you. So I made a list, I'm almost done, last thing here. I made a list of the 10 most toxic behavioral traits I can think of. To read them real quick: violent, entitlement, grandiosity, parasitic, controlling, lacking empathy, lacking compassion, lacking remorse, Machiavellianistic, and sadistic. I think all of you know what those are. I've gone over some of them. Machiavellianistic is scheming, plotting, and planning. It's a part of the dark triad. Extremely psychopathic. Sadism means I enjoy and derive pleasure from hurting you and seeing you suffer. Me doing it, not other people. I can't just, unfortunately, sadists can't just, buy the magazine or get the video. No, they got to do it themselves. And record it and watch it, sure. But sadistic, sadist. Borderline and histrionic share almost the exact same behavioral traits, and narcissists and antisocial share the same. I split them up in two. So the borderline and the histrionic has tendencies to be violent, to be very entitled, to be parasitic, controlling, and sadist. Sadist. Someone who's been abused and traumatized, maybe even tortured in childhood, tends to be sadistic. When you're talking about narcissists and antisocial, all 10. Propensity to have all 10. A borderline can have all 10, but likely borderline histrionic has those 5. Violence, entitlement, parasitic, controlling, and sadistic. Now, they may be lower in empathy. They may have less compassion. I get it. but its tendency to be narcissist and antisocial. Again, I'll just read them all. This is the narcissist antisocial. Imagine one human being possessing all these behavioral traits and a pervasive pattern of them. Violence, entitlement, grandiosity, parasitic, controlling, lacking empathy, lacking compassion, lacking remorse, Machiavellianistic, and sadistic. Major differences between the four. I hope that I showed that. Let me know what you guys think. Add your own examples, whatever you guys think that the differences are amongst the four. Ask me any questions you want. I'll try to help you and answer them the best I can. Okay, I got a weekly Q&A if you want to ask more questions on those. Thank you, everyone. Love yourself first. Bye-bye.